that shape and dimension that you're looking for a portrait. I'll show you some examples. So ways to find these lighting environments, right? So the soft light in the natural world, how to find it. Soft light in the natural world exists on the edge of a door, right? So right here, if you imagine this can, behind it's super dark, and above it is an overhang, actually. So it's being shaded, really, but there's an open door that the bottle is facing, where it says, or the can is facing, Brother Maker. And that open door creates this super soft light source on the can. And it lights the little water droplets really nice. So all those little, let's see these little highlights right here on the water droplets? Water is really shiny. But this sticker, the label, is not very shiny. So this is lighting two different kinds of surfaces at once. A great way to do that is with a large, soft source. And let's see here. Here's another one. So this is harsh light. This is midday sun right here. But you notice we're not lighting anything shiny. So it looks really great. The hero in this image is this backpack. And the backpack is a really, it's a fabric surface, right? So you need harsher light to show and create those shadows and to give it that dimension. A soft light would not do the job as well as a harsh light in this particular scenario. On people's faces, right? This is a cloudy, rainy day, and this is my dad actually on his fishing tube. But we went out on the cloudy, rainy day, and the clouds, they turn the sun into this really large light source. Without the clouds, the sun is actually really big, right? But it's so far away from us that it kind of loses its size. But when we have a cloudy day, it takes that sun, the power and the size of the light that the sun provides, and it magnifies it and it blows it up big. And I'm going to say something real quick. A way to create soft light is to make it bigger and to bring the light closer to the subject. Now I'll say that again. The closer and the larger the light source, the softer it is as far as quality goes. That has to mean that the smaller and the farther away the light source is, the harsher and the harsher the shadows will be on the subject. And so if you think about it, the sun is big, but it's super, super far away. So if there's no clouds in between the sun and you, it's going to be really harsh light. But if there's cloud cover, it turns the sun, the light source, into a really ginormous light that covers the entire sky as far as you can see. And that's the biggest light source you could ever find in the universe. Arguably the most beautiful light source you could ever find in the universe. Here we go again. Here's another portrait. And he is this is Danny. Danny's sitting on the floor of his Volkswagen van. And if you know Volkswagen vans, they have slider doors in the middle of the van. So he's sitting on that slider door. So right above his head, right here, it's creating shade. But that slider door is open, so it's allowing light through the front of his face, which provides beautiful, soft light. And I'm going to go back again, just like this. This lighting scenario and this lighting scenario are exactly the same. If this is what it looks like on a human face. This is what it looks like on a can, on a product. All right, composition do's and don'ts. This is a fun one. Are we all good? Everyone's good? I heard a little noise. I'm going to keep going. I think we're good. The rule of thirds. I'm sure we've all heard of this, and we may think we know it, and it's actually pretty simple, so you probably do know the concept, but we're going to go over it here. Okay, first tip and trick. Most folks that don't hire a photographer like me or anybody they are probably going to shoot on their phone, which is totally cool. The phones are super capable. And this presentation that I'm showing you guys today is kind of targeted towards people that are going to be shooting on their phones. So a lot of these tips and tricks are for phone shooters specifically. So tip number 1 for composition. Turn on the grid function on your phone. And if you're using DSLR camera, you should do that too. It'll look like this. This grid helps you lay out and map out your image, right? It just really helps you organize what's important and what's not for your viewer. And that's huge because nowadays you have about 2 seconds for someone to take a look at your image and like it. And that's not very long. So the more things you can do to make your images more interesting and more descriptive and more creative and make it obvious of what the viewer should be looking at, the better chances you're going to have for them to like your image and ultimately like what's in it. So use the grid as guidelines to organize your image and guide the viewer through the photograph. Help them, the viewer, find out what is most important in your image. What is the hero object, concept, or focal point? And if you want to, once you get really good at this, you can pre-think what you're going to use your photographs for, right? Are they going to be used for banners? Are they going to use just the photograph alone? Are you going to add text, right? If you're going to add text, you need to compose the image to have plenty of negative space here, or here, or here, for you to put text and for it to fit and be organized still and still flow. If you put text over here, there's no way. It's just going to be covering this guy's face, and the stories are going to be confusing. The viewer is going to be confused on what's important, the text or the image. If you compose for text, you can create a hierarchy system within the text and the image about what's more important and what's not. Right here. So these thirds, right? The reason why it's called the rule of thirds, because it's divided into 3. 1, 2, 3. And I shoot with this grid on all the time. I never turn it off ever. Whether I'm on my phone, on my big DSLR camera, on my video camera, I need to make sure when composing people and products that they are perfectly in the right segments of the rule of thirds, of the frame of the image. A lot of times, clients don't really know if they're going to use it or what they're going to use it for. They just know that they need a photo or video archive, right? And so, especially with product photography, later on, they use these images combined with text. And the only way they can do that is if I pre-assume that they're going to potentially do that. So I compose always with room for text. Okay. Ways to increase image quality. This is a good one for notes. And these things, they can all be applied very easily on a phone. So, with a phone as a primary camera, never, ever, ever use your zoom feature on your phone if you want your image to be nice quality. When you start zooming in on your phone, I think it's a little thumb slider typically. I don't even know. I don't even use it. I think it's a thumb slider. You can zoom in and out. You can watch the pixels, the pixelation happening. It's horrible. The quality, the technology just isn't there yet. Okay. If you need to zoom or get closer, or if you need to zoom into your image, then just get closer to it if you're going to shoot on your phone. Okay. When emailing or sharing your images, share it in the highest quality version as possible. And I say this when it gives you the option, because usually if you email a picture to somebody, that's probably the best way to share an image. Say that you are the owner of some winery, right? But you have this intern person or you have an employee that also takes really great photos. So you put them on the task of shooting the majority of the photos for your social media archive or for your online store. Train that person to submit the images to you via email. That way they can select, okay, I want to send the largest file. Usually it gives you an option to select the largest one, the medium size, the small size, or a compressed version. And always choose the largest file because that has the most information in the file, which equals the highest quality. And that matters when you want to edit your image or when you want to post your image. Reproduction quality is very important. If you miss this step, the risk is very high that your credibility goes down. If you post a poor image that's blurry and pixelated, people won't just look past it. They'll look at it and be like, wow, that photo is pretty rough. And they'll remember that just as much as they would remember, or more so than they'd remember a good photograph, which is kind of sad. Okay, keep your editing and photo enhancement to a minimum. You know, when you're editing, think of sharpening, bringing in contrast, right? The good old easy stuff. Don't go too crazy with those little sliders on there because that is also damaging to your photograph because you're probably not editing the original. I mean, you probably are, excuse me, editing the original, so you're potentially ruining that photograph forever if you go too far with your editing. Instead, until you get the hang of it, stay out of the creative choices as far as editing goes. Sharpen that thing, add contrast, and get it out there. Unless you can find a group of filters that you like. If you can find a set of filters out there, a lot of photographers sell them or give them away for free. You know, it'd be really worth your while to go find some that you really like and that they're kind of consistent looking. So you can bounce around through like 3 to 5 of them and easily apply them over your photographs. That way it gives your photograph some sort of consistency in the editing. If you see yourself getting onto, you know, some sort of social media campaign or online store type of deal, you know, you have to have consistency in these photographs because it's almost like your brand. It's almost like if you have this company that says something and acts this way and talks this way, but it performs another way, it's confusing to the buyers and to the consumers. So a good way to stay consistent is through your editing and post-production styles. Another tip for increasing image quality, tap the screen before taking the picture to select the focus. Your cameras are pretty capable on your phones nowadays. If you have your product, right, go back to the wine bottle, you can see the wine bottle on the screen while you're shooting. And when you're doing it, tap on whatever you want to be in focus. And that'll increase your image quality through the roof. A lot of people miss this step. They just go and they shoot it and call it good. The problem with that is the phones, they kind of have an autofocus feature. So maybe you guys have seen a photograph that someone didn't do that on, and the background's in focus, but the product is blurry. That's almost like having one of those poor quality images that's all pixelized. It's almost worse. So make sure you tap and tell the phone what you want to capture. Yeah, it's just a computer. You have to tell it what you want to capture, and it'll do it. It'll do the work for you. Okay, and another one, stay less than 3 feet away from your subject. So what I mean by that is get nice and close and up and personal with your subject, with your object, with your product that you're going to photograph and sell, hopefully. That's the hero. Your product should always be the hero as far as product photography goes. So one way to do that is to get nice and close to it, basically just close enough to where it's still in the frame, but it takes up the majority of the frame. You maintain that heroic presence with that product, and more people will be interested in the photograph that showcases the product. All right, if you're gonna shoot stuff with a DSLR camera instead of your phone, good for you, but make sure you're shooting in RAW and you're exporting and sharing and uploading all your final photos as JPEG files. You should really invest in this program called Adobe Lightroom. It's a really great cataloging system that keeps your files and your photos organized. I have 70,000 pictures in my Adobe Lightroom catalog. The only way that I'd be able to stay organized with that is because of Adobe Lightroom as an organizational tool. You can also edit and manipulate your photos in there and import filters that you like. But to fully grasp the program, you need to take a class on it, or at least watch a bunch of YouTube videos, or you can call me and I can teach you how to do it. All right, define your style. This is mostly about consistency, concept, and once you get these basics down that we've already talked about, this is just staying true to that style that you all of a sudden naturally created. Okay, think about concept before you start shooting. This is a great way to one, think of a style, three, adopt one, and two, adopt one, and three, keep it consistent. Have a creative plan, but keep that plan simple. They told us in school, KISS, keep it simple, stupid. So don't overdo it. Just keep it simple. Usually less is more in anything in life. Rarely the solution to anything in life is to add stuff. Usually you want to take stuff away. The same thing for photographs. It just simplifies everything and makes it cleaner. If you have a concept before you go into a little photo shoot, whether the photo shoot's 5 minutes long or 5 hours long, it's going to be more efficient. Your photos will be better, and they'll just make more sense to the viewers. That's the overall goal here, is just to make sense to the viewer through creative art. Okay, keep in mind the story of your brand and weave it in to all of your images that represent your products. And I'm going to show some examples of this. So right here, all these photographs I'm about to show you, they're all for the same client, Barrel Brothers. There's clear consistency that one person shot all these different pictures. There's also clear consistency in the brand. The brand is, Barrel Brothers brand is very creative. They're kind of comical, right? This beer is called Dad Pants. So we did a conceptual photograph of this model wearing typical dad pants, right? So we kind of took the concept dad pants and ran with it. The can itself is designed with that leather belt right there. That's that leather belt right there. And on the can, there's denim jean pockets on the label as well. So once you have concept and a plan, you can take it and run with it and keep going with it, and kind of bring more emotion out, tie emotion in with the product, with the ultimate purchase for your prospective customer and your culture of your brand. Here's another one. Right, storytelling. This beer is a sour beer. It's called Leather-Bound Books. What do? You get a bunch of leather-bound books on an old classic desk, and we build a little scene around it. This is all naturally lit from a window, creating this nice highlight up and down. Marmalade. It's made with apricots, so we get apricots and we get them all around the bottle and start playing with photographs there, keeping the concept in line. Okay, maintain consistency in your style so everything looks and feels cohesive. Your brand, the way it talks and walks and smells and everything should all be pretty cohesive. That way people don't get confused about what they're looking at, what they're buying from. Really the whole gist of this is minimizing confusion from the viewer when they're looking at your products and in your brand, in your photographs. You don't want people to be confused with that kind of stuff. All right, tips and tricks. Again, find a filter you like or a series of them and use them. This is a great way to maintain a consistency in style so everything looks and feels cohesive. Another way, a little more intense, but it'll help you. Build a mini set within your store or your house, wherever you can. The size of the set will be dependent on how large your products are, right? So if you're going to photograph people wearing shirts and wearing clothing because you're a clothing boutique, you're going to need a bigger space to do that. If you're going to sell wine bottles, okay, all you need is a little corner to fit a wine bottle in there. And you just always use that same set, or use maybe three different versions of that set. And that's how you shoot your wine bottles. Your consistency in your brand will go through the roof. And your photos will look and feel better and more cohesive throughout the entire online store that you're hopefully building, or your entire social media archive that your followers know and love and associate themselves with. So again, here's some of these, a little more storytelling. All right. And we're about done here. I'm going to invite you in to ask some questions if you have any. Real quick, I'll show you what it looks like in here in this studio. Right. This is a studio that I'm in. And this is before it's all set up, right? We have some lights, we have some gear. But this is what it can look like when it really comes to life, when we light people, we light products like this camera bag right here. This is for a video shoot. And then there's my dog Arnold, because who doesn't love dogs? And there he is again. And that's about it. If you guys have any questions, then feel free to ask them. And
so Dan, we did get one question. Susie asked about where to purchase filters or find filters.
Yeah, so a great way to find and purchase filters, usually there's a lot of free ones out there. I'm not sure how often you're on Instagram, but this whole webinar is kind of based off of Instagram posting and Instagram photography, right? Hop on Instagram, follow some photographers, or just go find the photographers that have a lot of followers. And usually they sell their filters, or they'll have a link in their bio for the filters. Or if you Google it, you just Google photography filters. I'm sure a million examples will come up, and a bunch of resources will come up for you.
And so regarding the choosing one, I don't know a lot about filters myself. So what should people be looking for? How will a filter help somebody tell the story of their brand or their products?
Yeah, so once you start shopping around for your filters, some of it is really just what you like aesthetically, right? So I'm sure that you came up with the idea for your company and your brand and your products as it is. So there's a lot of emotion behind your choices when you came up with all that stuff. So tap into that emotion and, look through a bunch of them and start trying to pick up on consistencies of what you like and what you don't like. And once you start doing that, you'll see, oh, wow, I clearly like this group of filters. I really like how this looks and how it complements my products and my photographs. I really don't like how these 5 filters look. I hate that. Usually filters have like overlays of colors. You could find some that are more of like a pink or a red shade, or a blue or a green shade. So there's a lot of options out there. Once you start looking, the things I'm saying about them will make more sense.
Okay, I'm going to ask a couple more questions, but I want our participants, if you could in the chat section list some of the products that you're going to be shooting, and then we can circle back after these. I have another question for Dan myself, and then Elaine has a question. We'll get to those two, but in the meantime, if you could note on the chat some of the products you're shooting.
Yeah, that'd be great.
So Dan, this kind of relates to a question that Elaine has, but I'm going to ask a question about lighting. So I am a total novice photographer. I'm actually not very good at it. And I don't have lights. You know, I have the sun and I have what I have in my house, but am I going to need to invest in more professional lighting?
No.
Or how when you talk about lighting and soft light and harsh light, are you talking about some of the lights right in your house
Yes.
as well as the sun?
Yes, this whole presentation is based off of found light, right? Pre-existing light, also known as ambient light. This whole entire webinar should not require any sort of additional light at all. So we know for a fact that shadows are our friend, right? As far as lighting goes. And it's safe to say that window light is perfect because whatever's indoors is covered by the roof of a house, which is one big shadow. So if you have a window and light comes through that window, it's light coming through, but there's a roof right here, and the roof is a subtraction element, so it's taking light away. The only light that gives direction and shape is that one window light. So if you think about that, the window light, the bigger the window, the softer and more flattering it typically is. And again, the larger the light source, the softer it is. The larger the window, the softer light it's going to provide, especially when you get close to that window. And recap on that again. If you get close to that window, it's going to be softer. If you start backing away from the window, it's going to be harsher light. If the window is really small, it's going to be harsher light. So a lot of it is finding shade, and if you want to shoot in midday sun, then typically use the sun to light the front of your subject or the back of it, not the side. So,
okay.
hopefully, is that helpful?
Yeah, absolutely.
When in doubt, find the shade. Find the shade.
Okay. So we had a question about where to find photography equipment.
Well, used or new. If you want to do new gear, I'd go through B&H Photo and Video. If you want to find used gear, Craigslist is a good spot. Craigslist, I feel like kind of is getting a little outdated in the sense that there's a lot of other apps. I'm on Craigslist all the time. There's a lot of other apps that sellers are typically going to first now, like OfferUp or Let Go. You can find a lot of good camera gear that's used on apps like that.
Okay.
Facebook Market.
Sorry, Dan.
Facebook Marketplace, that's another good one.
Okay. So just some of the lists of products that people are shooting. We've got jewelry and earrings. Yep. The two lanes with different last names both shoot types of jewelry. And one point is that some of the jewelry has resin on it, so there's a little bit of a shiny coating. Any thoughts about that?
Nope, I kind of lost you on this second.
Go
ahead, jewelry is really shiny, but luckily jewelry is typically really small, right? So since jewelry is small, you don't need that big of a light source to light it properly. Jewelry should typically be backlit. So meaning if this is your subject, this is your earring, my fingertip right here, the light should go behind it and the light would wrap around the front of it. If you do it from the front, you're gonna have some pretty crazy highlights going on. So that's kind of the story there. Jewelry would be pretty tough. But if you have a big light source relative to the jewelry, you'll be fine.
Okay, so
Window.
yeah, sorry about that. I have a couple other things, products, greeting cards, and also someone else sells or is shooting hand-woven scarves and ponchos, including ponchos on mannequins. So any thoughts on those two kind of different products from different
Yes.
people?
Yeah, right. So those are clothing. It's all the clothing. Clothing is typically a diffused surface, right? It's softer. It's not shiny. It's not specular. So diffused, soft surfaces, they can handle harsh light. You almost need harsh light. Not harsh light, but you need light that's coming from the side to create shadows, right? So right now, I'm being lit right now by this light. This light's like a 7 foot circle disc of light. So it's super, super small. I mean, and super, super big. So I'm gonna turn this way, right? And this way, I'm being lit from the front of this light. So right here, there's no shadows. But right here, you're starting to get shadows, right? This is what you need to show off clothing. You need to show off the texture of it, and that can give the most truthful information to a potential buyer of how it feels and how it may fit. That's why lighting is important for clothing like that.
Okay, and so how about with paper products or greeting cards or postcards? Same concept? Fabric, interior textile?
Yeah, I have some here. Hold on one second. Yeah, here's one of my postcards, one of my greeting cards that I give to my clients, right? Real simple. So the light is right there. Watch me turn this thing. See how the light changes? Right now, it's backlit. There's no light hitting the image, the postcard. But if I start turning this thing, look how it changes. Now there's a big reflection on there. Big bright spot. So I'd probably do something like right around in there. So, long story short, side light. The light's here. It's coming in from the side. That'll give you no glare, but enough light wrap around to show the image properly, like that. Is that helpful?
Yeah. Another product that's shiny. So we have some belt buckles. And then we have people, so headshots of people.
Yep, people. So we'll do the people first. Belt buckles is pretty much the same as jewelry as far as how you'd light it.
Okay.
Yeah, almost exactly the same thing. Probably backlit or side lit. And you want a really soft light source, so something much bigger than the belt buckle. The size of the light source, you know how important that is? As far as the softness of light and the quality of light. The size of the light source relative to your subject. So if your subject is the size of a belt buckle, you don't need a 7 foot light. But if your subject is me, and I'm a 6 foot, 200-pound guy, I need a big light. I need a 7 foot light. So right now, here's some example. The light face, right? I'll show you. So right here, you can see my face, the light's coming right here, and it's starting to wrap around just a little bit. But if I turn my face to the light, now the light starts to spill over my nose onto this cheek. And I keep turning back. Now I'm in the shade, in the dark. It's not flattering this way. And I turn this way, face the light, and the more flattering typically light gets for a human face.
So there's a really big light right above you. Is that the light you're talking about?
Yeah, this but this light is here because I don't have a big window right here. If I had a big window right here, I would just get rid of this light and light myself with a window.
there's a really big light right above you that's pretty strong. So it was a little hard for me.
I'm not referring to that light. That light back there is actually backlighting me. So it's creating a nice little highlight back here. It's probably hard to see in this video quality, but that light is backlighting me. This light is side lighting me.
Okay.
Now this light is front lighting me, and now this light is side lighting me just by me turning.
So we have a question about flat lays, which I don't know what the flat lay is, but the question is from Susie is she does wedding type products, and everyone uses and loves flat lay photos. She said she finds them hard to deal with placement and lighting of all the items.
Flat lay photos, is that like a photo album book that doesn't have a bend on the page, so it lays flat on the table?
So Susie, I just unmuted you if you want to describe a little bit more in detail.
Great, thank you. A flat lay, what I'm thinking of is where you're shooting from straight above, looking down at a bunch of, a mix of products, even if it's a stationary suite, all arranged flat.
Yeah, like a bird's eye perspective of a bunch of product laid out in an organized way, probably on the ground.
Yes.
Yep. So what's your question about that again?
I just have a hard time with the lighting on them because sometimes it throws shadows different ways.
Yes. The best way to do that is probably with one light, one really big light, so you can control the shadows.
Okay.
The only time when you get crazy shadows is when there's crazy light. So if there's multiple lights going, you're going to have multiple shadows going. If you have one single light going, you're going to have one single shadow going, right? The brightest light in the room will create the hardest shadow. So if you have that one light, probably if you're all your products on the ground and say you're 4 feet off the ground looking bird's eye down, I probably have that light 2 feet off the ground or higher and just to the side of it, from the top down, and just you're like raking light across the whole floor. And the way you can kind of fix those shadows from being too long or too short is by lifting the light up higher or by bringing it down closer to the ground. Does that make sense?
That helpful. Oh, Susie went back on. Susie, that's helpful? I unmuted you.
Thank you. That's great.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
So,
if you have more questions, you can, and I'm open to have people over here to the studio. I could probably help you guys in 2 seconds if you guys really wanted to do that.
well, we have to worry about the shelter in place, Dan, so let's not do any. I'm always having to be careful of those health orders.
Message me private.
Right. A question from Marta is, she says, what do you think about using a light box? And Marta, I'm going to go ahead and unmute you if you want to just take a second to describe that a little bit. Okay.
Can you hear me?
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah,
yes,
so
we can.
I haven't done it myself yet, but I know people who have used these, like a small box that you can get, so if like say I was doing some hand-woven scarves or something, I could arrange it within the box. And I think the light comes from above on those. I'm not sure. I just wondered if you were familiar with them and what you thought about them.
Yep. Light boxes are amazing. They're really powerful tools, and they're really efficient tools. I didn't mention them because I was trying to not show a bunch of stuff that you guys can go spend money on. You know what I mean?
I like that.
But light boxes, because that can happen really easy with photography. I'll tell you that right now. Light boxes are really powerful tools. And if you get the right ones, I mean, you can light that thing with a flashlight, and it doesn't have to be from the top down. You can move your light from like the top. That's probably the most flattering, consistent light. but you can bring it to the side panel or the back panel or the other side panel, and you can control your light individually as far as top light, side light, back light, those types of things. If you have the resources to purchase a light box and you're shooting things that can fit into the light box, meaning like your products are smaller, like jewelry or belt buckles or whatever, even a wine bottle, go buy a light box and you'll have clean white background, catalog worthy photographs that will work really great and probably sell your products.
Can you create something like that without buying something like that? Or?
That's what I do. That's what I do for a living.
Yeah. Big giant light box.
Create light boxes.
Okay.
Yep. So yeah, you can definitely do that stuff. You can do that with, you know, you could buy diffusion panel from the art store, parchment paper, put a light through that. Drafting paper works pretty good because you can it just softens the light. It acts like a cloud in between the sun, right? Your flashlight, let's say, is going to be the sun, and then the diffusion paper is the clouds, and then the object is your product. So now all of a sudden you put clouds in front of the sun and your product's beautifully lit.
Okay, great.
Is
there any particular kind of lights that you would recommend? I mean,
yeah, Amazon does a good job at selling some basic lights, but I'm partial to my company that I rep. I rep a light company called Light in Motion. They make they're called Stella Pro lights. That's the lineup. And they're all lithium-ion batteries. They're waterproof. They're drop-proof. I have probably 4 or 5 of them. So, yeah, Stella Pro lights. You're willing to really go for it, that's what I would buy.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yep.
So, Dan, could you really quickly go over the composition part that you talked about? So I didn't even know about the grid lines on phone. So that's huge learning for me in this webinar. And so how are the products supposed to be positioned? Where are they supposed to be? Off the center, in the center? Just really quickly, we only have about 10 minutes, so maybe a 2-minute, 1-minute review of that.
Can you guys still see my screen too?
I can see the screen of the Lightroom with the backpack.
Okay. All right. How about this? Does this show a grid?
Yeah. There you go.
Okay. Here's our recap for composition. Step 1: turn your grid feature on while shooting with your phone or your DSLR camera. That way you have your cheat codes, your guidelines, right? I can't tell you where to place your product or your subject within the frame. That's your creative choice. But think ahead and know, okay, wow, I might be shooting I might be adding text to this photograph later. So you start playing around, right? This one's composed camera left. This one's composed on the right. This one's composed on the left. This one is composed kind of weird, right? It's composed to handle text in the middle. This one, you know, the subjects are top and bottom. This one's dead center. So it depends on what you're doing. Again, go into your little shoots with a plan, with a concept. And here's the thing. You're not shooting on film anymore. Digital's cheap. You don't have to go buy it, right? So do one of each. Do one to the left, do one to the right, and do one in the middle. And then later, before you post it, see which one you like. It'll take you 2 extra seconds, and now you have options. So that's what I would say for that.
So Dan, really quickly on that one shot of you, of the motorcyclist, in terms of distance, you had mentioned that you shouldn't be more than 3 feet or so. Mm-hmm. So how did you position that?
Oh, well, the 3 feet rules for shooting products. This is a portrait shoot. This is just for fun. 3 feet, that's so you can keep your product the hero, right? It's the easy
Right.
way to do it. Not really a rule that you should follow super, super hard. It's not a rule at all. It's just kind of a recommendation. But this one, you see the ground is moving, right? So Danny, the guy on the motorcycle, I'm photographing him from the bed of my truck. And someone is driving my truck, and I'm sitting on the tailgate as we're going across Waller Bridge. But it's really important because we have to match speed. So we're only going like 5 to 10 miles an hour, right? But it looks like we're going probably 30 miles an hour. So I slowed the shutter speed down a bit, and it gives you that sense of motion on the ground. But yeah, that's how I did that. We just maintained distance by having me in the truck and him on that motorcycle.
Probably a little more advanced than our basic product shot then. If you both
It's a lot
remove
more
it,
advanced. Yeah.
shutter. That sounds like, that doesn't sound like photo 101, but that's, the thing is with these types of photos, you know, they're so beautiful and they're so well done. It's like you don't know all the intricacies, and that's why you do what you did, Dan, and you go to school and you get a degree in fine art and photography. So
You can do that, or you can just go do it. You'll learn a lot just by doing, honestly. Yep. You'll learn a lot.
That's the message I'm getting from this, is really going out. I've got some basics now, and now it's a matter of really practicing, playing with the lighting, playing with the composition. We've recorded this webinar, most of it. I actually pushed record a little bit late, but I got most of this. So I can go back and I can listen to what you have to say again, and really, like you said, practicing.
Yeah.
I'm going to wrap up. It's 5 till 2, unless anybody has any last questions in chat. I would like to thank you and all for attending. I am going to be sending out an evaluation form, and also the materials that Dan is going to send me, which will be the PDF of these his slides, as well as maybe, Dan, you can include a couple of the websites of places that you'd recommend that we check out. So if you want anything from Dan, or you have another question that we didn't get to, go ahead and type it in the chat now, and I will make sure we address it as a follow-up. So,
Yep. And if you think of it later, there's my contact information again. So you can write that down and communicate with me on a later date as well.
And if you need to get in touch with me, anybody, you can go ahead on the City of Petaluma site and contact, and just send a quick email, and we'll figure out how to get it to me. So, any last words, Dan?
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dan, for participating. And for those of you still on the call, if you are a merchant or have a business with products here in Petaluma, Dan's been helping us with shoppetaluma.com, and you are able to get information about how to post your information and your photos about your business. So if you're interested in that, just you can go ahead and go to cityofpetaluma.org and contact and send us an email. So thanks, everyone. I'm going to go ahead and end the meeting now. Thanks again, Dan. Appreciate all your help today.
Welcome.
Bye.
See you later.
Bye, everyone.